We are Smooth 98.1. We love music. We definitely love life. And of course, we love to talk about what's going on in the news, taking a look at the headlines making the rounds in the papers. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It is an interactive session. As I love to say, this is where we love to get your thoughts, your messages. Keep them coming in, your opinions as well. You can send them in to us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. It's also important, I need to add this, that you try to keep your messages as concise as possible, short, to the point. It makes it a whole lot easier for me to read and to get through as well. And I really love to get through all your messages whenever they come in. You can also drop your comments for us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways that you can be a part of Freshly Pressed this morning. My analysts are in to give their analysis, of course, and give perspective on the stories that we'll be taking this morning. AB, Bozimo, and of course, Mr. C are in the building. Very good morning to you, gentlemen. Happy New Week to you.
Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Let's make this a money-making Monday.
Mr. C, good morning to you. No, Mr. C's network isn't deciding to do something. Line. Okay, he's back. He's back.
Okay, there he goes.
Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Nayo. Good morning, Navy. Good morning, Lagos. Let's be fruitful and productive this week.
Indeed, let's be fruitful and productive this week. And we're going to begin in the Punch newspaper. I mean, the minister talking about being productive, but not in the ways that we actually expect him to be productive. Taking the story out of the Punch, Mr. C, I'm coming to you with this one. Can you hear us, Mr. C? We can hear you clearly.
There appears to be a little lag.
Yeah, it appears that Mr. C is having some issues or some hitches. Technically, there will. Okay, I think he's back in now. Mr. C, can you hear me clearly?
Hello. You are muted. Yes. Okay. Now he's muted.
I'm here.
All right, fantastic. So, like I said, we're going to start our week productively, talking about a minister who wants to be productive, but not in the way we expect him to actually be productive. It's coming out of the Punch. Now, the newly appointed Minister of State for Housing and Urban Development, Yusuf Attah, has said his mission is to deliver Kano State to the All Progressives Congress in 2027. Now, the development came as the immediate past Minister of State for Housing and Urban Development, Abdullahi Tijani Gwarzo, faulted the decision to choose Attah as his replacement, describing it as a wrong political decision. Now, he was speaking to newsmen shortly after his maiden visit to Kano, after his swearing in as minister. And Attah said, and I quote, "My appointment was mainly for political reasons. APC has lost Kano State, and now it will take Kano State. The main problem is the Kano Central, and I am from there." Let me end the quote for now. So, Mr. C, I mean, new Minister of State for Housing and Urban Development, who presumably was brought in to, should I say, deal with the housing deficit and so on and so forth that we're dealing with as Nigerians. But he has said, no, that's not the work I was brought in to do. I was brought in to reclaim Kano State. That's my portfolio. Mr. C, how damning is this for minister to have said or made these statements?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. So when you ask the question how damning this is, damning to who? Clearly his appointers, whoever appointed him knows why he was appointed. And again, it speaks volumes of the charade that was called the ministerial assessment that was done a while back. Now, the previous chap was Minister of State. He was removed ostensibly for non-performance or poor performance. Where is the full minister of that ministry? If you can find the Minister of State to have failed in his duties or his expectations, how did you retain the full minister? On what basis? Now, no surprises here. He has finally confirmed what some of us already knew. When these appointments are made, they're not made with little or no regard for competence, especially in ministries that are not exactly public facing. Now, this is 2024. The year hasn't ended. And this individual is talking about delivering Kano State in 2027. Now, there are a number of questions that jump out immediately. One, is he planning to run for the office of governor himself? Does that explain why he was made a minister, to build a war chest ahead of the elections? Now, if he's not running to be governor in 2027, how exactly does he intend to deliver Kano State? Is it by diverting federal projects to Kano? Is it by using federal money to entice or use it for purposes other than which it should have been used for previously? So these are questions. And are they saying that come 2027, irrespective of the wishes of the people of Kano, that APC would take the day? So there are many questions that jump out following this statement. And alas, it begs the question again, what did the Senate assess when it also did its screening and approved this gentleman to be a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Now that he has told us that his main focus is not even the work at the ministry, his main focus is on how to deliver Kano. Are we going to see episodes reminiscent of what Mr. Nyesom Wike did as Minister of State for Education, when he would go to Port Harcourt almost every weekend to torment and intimidate the then state governor, Mr. Rotimi Amechi? Are we going to see incidents like that? And we must, not we, his appointers and his advisors must remember Kano is easily one of the most volatile states in Nigeria. And when trouble starts, it really starts in Kano. So I would have thought that he would focus on his presumed or perceived appointment and be seen to be competent and efficient, and then sell that to the good people of Kano State. But clearly, he's running for some political office, because I cannot believe that he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart or his soul. And it just reminds Nigerians that there is a wide gulf, or there's a great trust deficit between the people of Nigeria and the people who govern them. And this doesn't help matters. So when people come out and jump out in the comment section and tell you, oh, the government has the best interest for Nigerians, I beg to disagree, respectfully. Again, the political class has shown it is completely out of tune, out of connection with the people they supposedly govern. And even if this was your assignment, it speaks volumes about personal intelligence. Even if this is truly your mission, why do we need to know? But again, this is Nigeria. The circus is in full season. We await the next show.
AB, now let me just take a quote before I ask you this particular question. Now further in that brief, he said, my mission, like I said, is purely political. Even though I am posted to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, I will do my work, but I will be coming to Kano State every week so as to work towards gaining control of the state. End of quote. Now, what I'm taking out here, he says, my mission, as he said, like I said, is purely political. Now, bearing that in mind, does that call into question some of the other appointments that were made? Can we infer probably, or just look at with scrutiny that, okay, if he's saying this about his own ministry, so can we then look at other ministries and say they were not put there to actually get things done? They were put there just, for political reasons, strategy, chess, or whatever it is you want to call it.
Basically, this gentleman said the quiet part out loud. You can have your suspicions about something just as a disinterested observer. But when a person now comes by himself and says, this is why I am here, I don't think he's speaking without feeling he has the backing of the person who appointed him. And yes, indeed, it goes further to my often stated point that a lot of those in office and authority are completely separated from the real life lived experience of Nigerians and what ought to be service provision by government at all levels. I should say the federal is one level and state levels. Let's not make it seem as if it's only federal, but he is just, in this case, a person in the spotlight. He has self-identified himself as a person. Many appointments do have political undertones, but the minimum expected is that the person in such an office will at least have the modicum of competence to deliver on the title mandates while pursuing the political. But he has said that the political thing is the all important thing. And so, in my view, whatever he's called in the other office is just by the way. When he has a little spare time, he may consider the ministry he was assigned to.
All right. That being said, let's move over to the Vanguard, where President Bola Tinubu has urged Nigerian graduates to utilize their knowledge and skills to uplift society and to contribute to the country's growth and development. Now, he made this appeal during the 29th and 30th combined convocation ceremonies of the University of Uyo held at the university's main campus along Nwaniba Road on Saturday. AB, I'm bringing this one to your doorstep. I mean, President Tinubu has spoken that he has urged these graduates to actually utilize their knowledge and skills to uplift society. But has society given them that enabling environment to actually use this knowledge and skills to do any upliftment?
Right in the beginning of this story, you can tell that the ground upon which it is attempting to be planted is fraudulent. They're doing a combined convocation ceremony. Ask yourself, why would it be necessary to combine ceremony? And this is not the year of COVID or after COVID, because you can understand, maybe COVID, we're 2 or 3 years hence, you are combining. That means somehow the educational system did not work as it should have been expected. Then he says, stop seeking greener pastures abroad. He urges the graduates. On the surface of it, I might even be one of those who would be happy to encourage graduates to put their skills and energy and efforts into the country. But does that suggest, therefore, that Tinubu is once again, in my opinion, handing over the responsibility for improving Nigeria to the graduates rather than the class of people around him in the political class? Should they not have been setting an example of how to make the country better that these fresh graduates could look up to, admire, and emulate? If you ask me, the messenger is the very wrong person to be speaking about putting better energies to Nigeria, because he and his ilk have failed, yes, to make the environment enabling where the energy, the effervescence, and the excellence of young Nigerians could be seen to shine. So you're telling people not to go abroad. Listen, first of all, travel is an individual choice. Some people dream of traveling and will travel. Some others will assess their options and decide not to go. It is not in any way, in my view, the place of the government to tell people what to do. Rather, it is for the government to create the kind of circumstances that will make a person assessing the options say, you know what, while I may have wanted to travel, every single dream of mine could come true here and I could contribute to a better society. But when you have a situation where some leaders are telling people that they can bury them and nobody will know, etc., though we've had apologies back and forth both ways, why would I, if I had an option, not choose to travel? If I had the option and that was my intention, please, President Tinubu, directly speaking to you, make the country a place where those youth by themselves will find fertile ground for every idea they have, not somewhere where they can barely get from point A to point B because they have no fuel, they have poor nutrition, and their schools are graduating 2 sets at a time because of disruptions in the educational sector. We keep talking about how education is a priority, but just last week we talked about how some people went on strike, then called off the strike because they were not being paid and nobody was even talking to them. Does that sound like a country that puts education as a priority? your answer is better than mine. And my
So
answer is no.
So let me quickly jump in on this. I'm just going to ask a question. So we have the president advising young Nigerians not to travel out of the country, but stay in the country. Can he point to any 3-month period since he became president where he sat down in Nigeria? He's always all over the place outside the country. So rather than tell us to do what we hear you say, actually walk the talk first. Because if you as president find it difficult staying within Nigeria, why would you expect young Nigerians who have their full lives ahead of them not to explore fully all the options before them to ensure that they get a better source of livelihood, to ensure that they are able to aspire to and achieve the dreams that they have in their hearts? Makes no sense.
Do as I do, not do as I say. Thank you for that, Mr. C. We'll take a quick breather when we come back in. We'll continue with the stories right here on Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere. They say you should not travel for greener pastures. We say to stay here.
Yeah. But
he puts a person in place to talk for him because he is traveling. You notice, Abi? He has traveled, so he puts somebody to talk for him.
He's traveling for the betterment of the country.
Oh, wow.
Well done. He should sit down and send us out. We can bring good things back. Send the youths out. Let them bring the good things back.
Welcome back to Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Love music and we love life as well. It's a beautiful Monday morning, 48 minutes past 7 a.m. It is now 49 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi here alongside me are Mr. C and Bozimo as well. They are giving their analysis of the stories that we are taking. And of course, you are also contributing to the conversation by sending your messages in to us on WhatsApp. And you can keep doing that. Keep them coming in. The number is 0809-444-0981. We're also on YouTube streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. So you can drop a comment there as well. And I definitely will be taking it as the show gets along. Let me sneak a message or two in before we get back into the stories. Joseph Mengi says, Nigeria is on a long ride with this administration because it's obviously that leaders from the presidency down to local government chairmen are just there for themselves and not for the masses. Just imagine what a supposed appointed minister is saying, that his sole purpose of appointment is to help reclaim his states to the ruling party. The same body language is what many others are doing in coded form, realistically saying who has actually stood out. Neither the ministers, lawmakers, nor the governors. May God help us. Sonny from Surulere says, I think that once you become a politician in Nigeria, you lose your conscience. The president should be given reasons why these fresh graduates should remain in Nigeria, but I don't think there is any tangible reason, really painful. Fabian from Ekwe says, it's unfortunate, but goes to show the mindset of the president for a newly elected minister to come out to say that rather than focus on his ministry, his priority is in winning an election 2+ years away. Where will our help come from? We must look inward and work on our judiciary plus electoral system now. Thank you for that, Fabian. That actually takes us into our next story here, talking about the judiciary, Mr. C. We're heading into the Daily Trust. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, the CJN, Justice Kudirake Kiriakon, says that some judges are giving the judiciary a bad name. And of course, controversial rulings from courts of coordinated jurisdiction have sparked controversy at different times. You can talk about River State, you can talk about Kano as well, where there are battles among key political actors that have buttressed this particular point. And she was speaking at a public discourse on ethics, morality, and the law. Mr. C, what say you about this? I mean, we've seen some judgments recently, and even for those who are not within the legal space, we scratch our heads and wonder how this actually come to be.
Okay. Thank you, Ayo. So my Lord Temporal was speaking at a public discourse, as you rightly said, and she was discussing the intercourse between ethics, morality, and the law. And as part of her contribution, she did clearly identify the fact that generally Nigerian judges are good, but there are a few bad eggs who are tarnishing the collective image of the judiciary. Now, I was a bit disappointed that my lord didn't go further to tell us what was being done to address the rot. So yes, you tell us that there is rot. We know that. But what is being done by her as the head of the National Judicial Council to deal with that? Because that's a body that is statutorily empowered to appoint, dismiss, and discipline judicial officers. Now, right. She made particular reference to the circus that is going on in Rivers State, concerning Rivers State, where there are conflicting judgments flying all over the place, and even non-lawyers, people who do not belong to the profession, are sitting down, scratching their heads, shaking their heads, and laughing at legal practitioners, saying that we're a confused bunch. Now, there's no gainsaying that my lord has a lot of work on her hands. And there's no point stating the obvious that the image and the perception of the Nigerian judiciary is at possibly one of its lowest levels ever since this nation became independent. Now, it hasn't helped that there's been some controversy. She attended the launch, the commissioning of the quarters for the judges in Abuja, and there's some controversy over that commissioning because the FCT minister is accused of illegally and unlawfully revoking the existing CFO and then re-awarding it. And then recently she was in Lagos for dinner. There's split opinions about that. But she has to lead the campaign because she is the head of the judiciary. She is the head of the third arm of government. And if these recalcitrants and unruly judges are to be dealt with decisively, she has to set the direction, she has to set the course. And what that means is that she can no longer turn a blind eye to conflicting judgments. You issue queries to the judicial officers in question, and you ensure that they have every opportunity to respond to those queries in accordance with natural justice. Then, based on their responses, the National Judicial Council can then take a final decision. If the judiciary is to repair its image before the Nigerian public, it will go beyond telling us the obvious. Certain hard decisions will have to be made. Certain examples will have to be set and made publicly for others to learn. And then even the lawyers who are involved in some of this foreign shopping that results in the conflicting judgments we see all over the place should equally be dealt with, because the truth of the matter is judicial officers do not file suits. It is lawyers. So you deal with the lawyers, but you also deal with the judges who flout existing judicial precedent and go ahead to do what they like. But she has a full plate in front of her. I wish her the very best because I've known her antecedents since she was a High Court judge in Lagos State. And if she cannot get it done, we're truly in God's hands.
Truly in God's hands. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but that came across. My goodness. But anyways, thank you for that, Mr. C. AB, we're still going to stick with some judicial matters here. Now, I know that you're not a lawyer, by trade, but SERAP has been speaking here. That's the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. This is in the Daily Trust. Now, they've urged President Bola Tinubu to stop the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and 36 governors from usurping the authority and responsibilities of the National Judicial Council, the NJC, and heads of courts through giving cars and houses to judges. Now, SERAP have said that such practices are clearly antithetical to the constitutional principles of separation of powers, checks and balances, and the rule of law, and may create the perception that the judiciary is subservient to the executive. This is what we're just talking about in the last story, where you have some judges making some very funny rulings and so on and so forth. And this could be one of the reasons that these things happen. AD.
Okay. The first question I will be curious to know as a non-lawyer is it illegal? Because I'm noticing SERAP's language is very carefully phrased. It may create perception. They are urging the president. So if it is illegal, I'm sure their language have been stronger. they're saying that Wike and other governors may be taking over the responsibility of the National Judicial Council. Here's the question. I know a judge is supposed to be sober, etc. There are certain characteristics of a judge. You're supposed to be, you have the power of life and death in some cases. So we expect you to be fairly sober. But it also should not be seen that you're living a life that is not ideal for your high esteemed office. Is the National Judicial Council properly funded? Are they able to get this? Because don't forget, in Nigeria, the president and the 36 governors are like small g gods. They have so much coming to them and they can dispense, they can make or break human beings. So a judge is a human being first. They should at least have their fundamentals taken care of. Is the National Judicial Council properly equipped to meet with those needs? I'm not talking about greed, just needs. If it's not, then SERAP should also urge the budgeting process to be fairer to the judges. Indeed, perception is half of the problem. If it is seen as though a governor has, quote unquote, air quotes, bought favor, then it's very hard for people to trust the judge either way. When they rule in the right way, some people say it's because of this. If they rule in the other way, people say because of that. So it's so important for judges to be more or less insulated from open society. And when you have high government officials doing this, whether at the federal ministerial level now or previously as governors in various states, is very hard. Perception is almost reality for people. So I don't know whether, you see, I didn't hear about a lawsuit, but they're saying if this isn't stopped, then they'll file a lawsuit. So maybe Mr. C can help me address whether it is purely illegal. Maybe it is unseemly, but if it's not illegal, then the president can say it is at the judges, it is at the discretion of those particular people. So I don't know. If it's not illegal, it's harder to tackle. But the judges, the judiciary, as we said, has to ask itself how it wants to be perceived. And maybe from that question, we can get behavior where you are offered things and you say, as a group, we are not permitted to take. That's also part of some of the rules of the civil service. You're not allowed to take certain gifts and so on.
Okay, Mr. C, do you want to clarify that real quick?
Let me quickly jump in on this. So yes, constitutionally, it's not illegal, but trust our Nigerian politicians to always find a loophole and exploit it. So while it is not illegal, ethically and morally, it is wrong. And then once they begin to do this, what stops a governor or the president from saying, I don't want a particular judge removed from this location to another location? Because as part of the judiciary, you can be reassigned to any division within the country outside the Supreme Court, and you would have to go. So there are many gray areas, and knowing our National Assembly, the political class, they're not going to do anything about it. And it makes nonsense of the statutory contributions or allocations that go to the judiciary straight from the Federation accounts. But again, hey, this is Nigeria.
This is Nigeria at the end of the day. Let's take some messages. Time has absolutely flown by. Just to round up the conversation this morning. Tony from Marine Beach says, the president has spoken well. We'll stay back in the country to enjoy the beautiful atmosphere our leaders created and make our country great. Beautiful advice coming from our president, and he deserves some applause. That was quite tongue-in-cheek from you, Tony, all the way from Marine Beach. Was talking to us here. There's no message. Okay, D from Ikeja says, the minister stated what most of us have always suspected. I just find his boldness to share this on mainstream media alarming. This is what happens with party man appointments, which appears to be the order of the day with this government. Jerry says the CGN herself is culpable. How can she explain the Imo State governorship election that brought in Hope Uzodinma? Is it the place of the court to install anyone that was supposed to be elected into office? She could have cancelled the election at most and asked for a rerun, not picking someone who came forth to first. Okay, thanks for sharing your thoughts there, Jerry. Kali says, this is Kali from TMB, I'm guessing that's Third Mainland Bridge. It says, my Smooth FM fan, this country, now cruise, as he said, let's just enter our motor and be watching, but be very demure, very mindful. Oh my goodness, Kali, Thank you so much. And thank you all for sharing your thoughts and your messages. And big thank you to you, Mr. C, and of course, AB, for taking the time out to join me on Freshly Pressed this morning. Always a great time and a pleasure.
Thank you. The pleasure and privilege are all mine. There was just one story about Tinubu in Saudi Arabia. He's about to say they should not have issues with the war going on. All I'll say is that nobody's going to take a country serious or the speaker when you don't have light in your country. Go back, solve your country, then your opinion would matter on the world scene.
Well, thank you for having me. And Nigerians, ignore the distractions, ignore the comedy, the circus is in town. Just focus on doing you, be fruitful, be productive, and your week will be blessed. Take care.
Amen to that. Thank you so much. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1 and the Smooth Breakfast. The sports will be coming up pretty soon at 8:15. The locker room will be in full gear. Take guys in for that one. Great banter. We'll look more.